talk to you about anything you want to talk about. Answer questions. Sure.
Chair Subject from American Blog. I want to ask you about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You spent a lot of time talking about the process here. Last fall, you actually asked the president, when you wrote a letter to the president, asking him to help you with that legislation. You mentioned it in State of the Union, and then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Gates came up and said they thought the law should be repealed. Is there a way that you can actually, the Senate Democrats can actually make this process work to our advantage, instead of having to go through filibusters, by actually including the bill in the chairman's mark and getting it into the, committee?
Yeah, let me say this. I just left, it started at 11 o'clock, so I left about noon. We were there giving the gold medal to the WASPs, the Women Air Force, Women Air Force Service Program, whatever it was. Anyway, the WASP, the women that flew airplanes in World War II. There were 1,100 of them. The reason I mention that in answer to your question, in World War II, women weren't allowed to fly airplanes. They weren't allowed to do anything in the military to speak of. But they got so desperate in moving airplanes from one part of the United States to another part of the United States, flying stuff overseas. They were desperate, and they allowed 1,100 women who had they were already pilots. They didn't train them to come in and fly these airplanes. 38 of them were killed, and they really revolutionized the military. What did we gain over they didn't start till 43. We should have women in the beginning of the war. We could have saved a lot of other efforts by having them there. I mention that because people today, still people, some of them have big stars on their shoulders, say that we can't have gays in the military. But if you read down or listen to what they say, it doesn't make any sense. So I've always been someone who has believed that this policy is senseless, that if someone is good enough to come in the military, they should be able to finish their tour of duty. They should be treated no differently than a heterosexual. If a homosexual, a gay person does something that's untoward while in the military, get rid of them, same as a heterosexual. So I'm all in favor of this program, and I think that the angst that we're going through now is a waste of time.
Can we get it into the defense authorization bill in the committee, do you think?
There's a possibility. Carl Levin is a thoughtful man. I personally believe that there will be an amendment offered if it's not in the chairman's mark. I'm quite confident there will be an amendment offered on the floor to get rid of the policy. Yes.
Rob called off the news.com. We polled with our readers, and we asked, are you satisfied with health care reform? And our readers are pretty far left. And they said about 85% said no. So they said no because it wasn't doing enough. Now the answer that we heard is that this is the first step. The same thing having done with civil rights, and other steps place later.
I'm just telling you, if this is a first step, it is a hell of a big step, I'll tell you that. Of course there are things we have to do when we get this completed. This is a major, major piece of legislation. There are very few pieces of legislation that are as meaningful to the American people as what we're trying to do with health care. And there are parts of the bill kick in immediately, others take a number of years to kick in. And I'm frankly glad that's the case, because we're dealing with lots of money. We have to make sure we do it right. And so, in direct answer to your question, of course we have a lot of things. We're going to have a number of things we have to do since then. But don't minimize what we're trying to do. It is a huge step forward. Yes?
I just came from the hearing.
If you'd be good enough, just tell me who you are, because I don't know. I'm sorry about that.
Bob Fertig with Democrats.com.
Okay.
The Judiciary Committee just held a hearing on Citizens United, and corporations can now spend unlimited amounts of money in this upcoming election to defeat every single Democrat in the Senate. What are the odds that the Schumer-Van Hollen bill will be strong and in place before you leave for Memorial Day?
We're going to do our best. I've learned over the years not to say we're going to do this, but I think we're going to do this. I've had a number of conversations with Chairman Schumer. Of course, the Speaker wants this done in the worst way because this is an example of the activism of this Supreme Court. Roberts, Alito, I've been so disappointed in Kennedy. I thought he would be a fair broker. And just on this issue, some of you know I've spoken out openly on more than one occasion, asking the President to stop selecting judges to be judges. I think we've had enough of that. I think what we need are people to go on that bench who have been legislators, people who are lawyers, people who are academics. We would have a better Supreme Court than all these people who all they know is to look in the mirror and see people on the black road. We've got to change that. I think that some of our finest Supreme Court justices have been people who have had other experiences. Take, for example, Sandra Day O'Connor. She was a legislator. She was elected to the legislature in Arizona. She would never have let that case go forward. She would not have, because she knows how hard it is to run for public office. Those characters over there, do you think John Roberts knows or cares how people get elected? Alito, I don't know, well, that's enough of that. Okay. Yes.
David Swanson, Democrats.com. As you may know, they're debating ending a war in the House at the moment. I am imagining that's not going to happen on this side, but I'm curious about the other war in Iraq, where we are there on a treaty that the Senate never ratified. Senator Biden once had a bill objecting to that state of affairs. If it turns out we aren't leaving at the end of 2011, at that point, will the Senate assert its right and responsibility to have some role in what we're doing in Iraq?
First of all, let me talk about Dennis Kucinich. I don't always agree with him, but what a fine man. I've read his book. As I said, I've read his book. I hope he has one that follows, because the book that he wrote only takes him up to when he gets into public office. We've had some pretty good debates, as you know, on the war in Iraq, and I've made a number of statements that people will remember forever on the war in Iraq. I think that we have things pretty well under control now. I think that the war is winding down there, the war of choice, a war that's cost, John Hopkins says more than 1 million Iraqis have been killed, and we know the damage to Americans. So we know what has happened to our country, and I think that there's tremendous focus on getting our troops out when it's been declared that they will get out. And I think if it's not done at that time, there will be some legislative action to take a look at that.